check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
My name is Lina. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this Ankara print of shoulder corset, a bustier-like dress. Yeah, with a net, you know, with a really high seat. Like, this is a sexy dress, but I can't really rock the dress all the way. I have cellulite, so I'm going to be making a skirt with a stretchy net fabric, you know, just to supplement the look and make it extra sexy. So I made this video in two parts. The first part is for drafting of the pattern. The second part is for sewing. The reason I did that is because the video is so long and I don't want you to miss any important parts of the video. So I don't want to start fast forwarding to the end, and it's beginner friendly, so I just want everybody to follow along. So watch to the end, watch the two videos, subscribe. Yeah. I can't be serious. Subscribe, like, share, turn on your post notification, and let's get right into drafting the pattern.
These are my drafting materials. So I have my tape measure, my rulers, I have this tracing roller, you need that. I also have my scissors, my basic fitted dress block pattern, and pattern papers. You need a lot of pattern papers for this to trace out most of the patterns. So here we are. I have traced my fitted dress block pattern without the dot. So if you're following, you should also trace that without the dot, because we're going to include that later. But since I needed to adjust the pattern a bit, the fitted dress block pattern a bit. I'm gonna put a link on the screen and also in the description box for you to watch the video of how I drafted my fitted dress block pattern. I started by drafting the front pattern of the dress. I also traced my pattern up to my desired dress length. So first thing first, I went down 1 inch on the waist to create a new waist length. So I went down 1 inch. I wanted the top part of the dress to be slightly below my waist. So if you're following, you can do so. And next was to recreate my waist line and also connect that to my hip. I also adjusted my armhole depth. You know, I went down a bit just to give that ease on the armhole. So because this is more like a sleeveless, so I don't need that ease anymore. So I recreated, like I adjusted my armhole depth. The next step was to mark my underbust. So my underbust is 13.5. So I marked that all the way and square it. So the next step also was to mark my bust distance, which is 4 inches. That's your nipple to nipple measurement. So I marked my bust distance on my underbust, likewise on my waist and on my armhole depth. My camera didn't capture that part. I got the midpoint of my shoulder and connected all the way, just like so. Connect all the points. I had to cut out the skirt parts as the bottom part of my front dress pattern, just to create more room to draft the top. I went down from the armhole depth 1 inch. This is my bust apex. I also, on the waist side, I went on both line, half an inch. This is my dart. My 1 inch dart allowance is already included on this pattern. So on the bust, I used 3/4 inch on both sides, and I connected the points. The next step was to get the midpoint of my armhole depth. So I marked out the midpoint of my armhole depth just like so, and squared that out. The next step was to mark out my chest dart, which is half an inch on both sides, and I also marked out the 1 inch dart allowance at the armhole side. So I connected that all the way to the armhole depth. So the next step was to create the new armhole curve. If you're following, pay closer attention to this part, because this is where it gets really crowded, a lot of lines, a lot of points. From the top of the pattern, that's the shoulder, I went down 8 inches. This is my new neckline. I connected that point to the midpoint of the armhole, just like so. From the on the bust line at the side, I connected that to the new neckline. From the new waistline, I went up 1 inch. While for the new neckline, I went down 3.5 inches. I connected that 3.5 inches down to the 1 inch at the side. This is what I have drafted so far. The next step was to get my chest measurements with my hands included. I divided that measurement by 4. This will be considered as my off-shoulder measurement, including the sleeve, the off-shoulder sleeve. I marked that measurement from my new neckline all the way out of my armhole, just like so, and also connect the points. I wrote a straight line. Then I marked out 2.5 inches. You can go 3 inches, 4 inches, depending on how large you want the sleeve, the off-shoulder sleeve. So on that line, the 2.5 inches, I went out half an inch, and connected that point. From the line on the armhole, I connected that to the 3.5 inches point on the center front. So this is it. I'm gonna trace out the cape and also the cover. That top part is the cape, the down part is the cover. What I did next was to draw 2 straight lines as my gray lines. So I got a fresh pattern paper to trace out my cape. That's my sleeve / cape. Then my cover, that's because I used a net, so I needed a cover to cover my breast, so my breast will not be revealing. So this is it here. I used the roller tracer. I don't even know what this thing is called, but this is a tracer for me, so I use the roller tracer to trace out the cape on a fresh pattern and also the cover. Next was to use my pen to trace out the pattern for visibility. And also I added my sewing allowance. So here we go, my cape and my cover. The next step was to cut out my top front pattern. I always label my pattern so I don't forget, because sometimes I don't sew immediately. I just have to probably rest for a day or sew, but not immediately. So this is the finished pattern. So many cuts, but it's all good. Since the pattern is in fold, I had to trace it so I can trace it out on the other side of the pattern paper. So this is it here. The next step was to draw a straight line on the mid mark of the skirt, just like so. On the hip length, I went down 3 inches and draw a line to the other side of the skirt. I got the midpoint of the left side of the skirt and marked that all the way to the 3-inch hip length line, and draw a line all the way down to the skirt length. Okay, I went in again 1 inch. This is the slit distance between the right and the left front skirt, and I drew a straight line down to the skirt length. On the left side of the skirt, from the waist down, I went down 6 inches. While on the right side, I went from the waist down 3 inches. I took out the ½ that allowance on both sides, because I don't need that allowance on the skirt because of the pleating. That's the slash and spread pleating on the side. After that, I reconnected the waist to the hip. The next step was to curve my skirt. So this part you just have to watch and do what I do if you're following. So it's so easy. It's not that complicated. That's why I can't say anything. I don't know all the terminologies to use when it comes to sewing. So I'll just let you watch this part. I just reconfirmed my measurement before curving. Yep, I have to be comfortable. I had to sit down and curve. I don't want to break my hips or my waist. So it's time to trace. I traced the left side of the skirts. I traced because the right side you have to slash and spread. So I traced the left side. So that's why I said you need a lot of pattern paper for this. If you're following, you label the skirt right and left, and you trace out the left. So I traced out the left with my tracing roller thingy and retrace with my pen. So I cut the left side of the skirt. So this is it. While I also cut the right side of the skirt out. So it's time to slash and spread. So this is what we have so far. So next is to mark out. So that's 6 inches. Don't forget that that is a 6-inch measurement right there. So I divided it into 4 because I just need 4 openings there. That's my slash openings. So I divided the 6 inches into 4, then rule a line. You can go wider, you can go whatever you want to do here. You can just play with it. I just played with it to know the distance or how I want it to flow. So this is it, all slashed and spread. It's time for the back. The back is a breeze. Oh my lord, it's a breeze compared to the front. Same thing for the front. I went down on my waist 1 inch, reconnected my waist to the hip and to the armhole, so easy peasy. Then marked out my bust distance, which is 4 inches. Marked up my shoulder midpoint. Same thing we did for the front. The next step was to mark up my dart, which is 1/2 inch on both sides. I mark that down 4 inches and connect that. Okay, I cut out the skirt of the back. It's a done deal. Nothing, no additional drafting for the back. So I got the midpoint of the armhole. So I marked that out. My camera suddenly went off, like, oh my gosh. So this one, what I did here was just easy. I first connected my dart all the way to the chest mark there. That's the midpoint of the armhole. I connected my 1/2 inch dart on that point there. Then from the top of the pattern, I went down 9 inches. I wanted the back to be a little bit plungy, so I went 9 inches instead of 8. So you can do 10, you can do 8, whatever you want. I also marked that round chest, including my hand measurement on the neck, the new neckline. I went down 2.5 inches. From the new neckline, I went down 3.5 inches, same as the front. We need the cape to be the same thing, so it's just the same cape measurement for the front to use for the back. On the sleeve side, I went out 1/2 inch like I did for the front and connect that. So it's time to trace. So I'm tracing out the cape. So if you're following, you just get a fresh pattern paper and trace out the cape. So you see, you need pattern paper. You can use a newspaper, you can use whatever you like to trace out the cape. I didn't include my sewing allowance. I'll do that later. Now I cut out my pattern. Don't forget to cut out the neck. I didn't cut out the neck, I forgot, but while cutting out my fabric, I cut out the neck. So if you're following, cut out the neck. You can see the neck is still there, so just cut out the neck. So this is it. You can see the video is so long, So on Sunday I'll be posting the sewing video. So thank you so much for watching. Please I beg you, subscribe and also turn on your post notifications so you will get an alert for the sewing video. Thank you so much. Leave a comment, like my video, please give me a thumbs up, and also most importantly for me is for you to subscribe. Thank you so much. So see you in my next video, which is on Sunday. Bye.